community plan amendment for the North Nashville Community Plan, item number 2021 CP-008-002. Let's see. Oh, am I clicking? Oh, there we go. Okay. So, a couple of introductions. As I said, my name is Stephanie McCullough. I work in the Community Plans Division for the Metro Nashville Planning Department. We have applicant team Michael Garrigan from Dale & Associates and Jeff Zeitlin from Martin Construction Company. Is that correct? Oh, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and then last but not least, we have our council representative, Brady O'Connell. And Councilman O'Connell, if you'd like to say a few words before we get started.
Sure. Jeff reached out to me a few months ago to kind of let me know about this proposal. And I guess for me, you know, with any proposal, there are always the details to learn about with the specifics to how it's going to go through the rezoning process and what other land use policies might be impacted. In this case, if you live in Salemtown, you know this is one of the few pockets of the neighborhood that actually already supports commercial activity. We've got sort of four corners at 5th and Buchanan that are commercial neighborhood. And so, Stephanie's pulling up a map here. So these four corners, you know, it's where Scouts and Grill Shack are now, where Nashville Plumbing has been for a long time. There's a vacant lot on the southeast corner, and there's kind of this shell that's been there for a little while, owned by an adjacent property owner on the northwest corner, which is the site in question. You know, for me, what Jeff showed me looked like it would include a restaurant concept as well as some housing that I think is appropriate to the area. And so for me tonight is kind of a learning exercise to understand why it triggers a community plan amendment. And so that's what I'm going to be paying attention to. And then obviously with any development proposal, I'm also trying to be attentive to community concerns. So I'll be listening to that as well. So that's all I've got, Stephanie, and thanks for hosting tonight.
Oh, no problem. My pleasure. Thank you, Councilman. All right, so let me go back a little bit. And so those of you who have not been involved with any of these calls, you've got here probably by going to the planning department's webpage or through a notification you got from us about this meeting amendment. So if you have a friend on there that needs to know this information right now, they can join the call by going to that nashville.gov/MPC. Scroll down to our events section, and you should be able to see an event for a community meeting for North Nashville plan changes. Click the link; it'll give you the how to connect through the WebEx app. This also is going to be recorded and is going to be posted to YouTube, and we're streaming live on Facebook right now. So if you want to share with your friends what's going on right now, they can look at facebook.com/Metro Nashville Network. Right now, all of the attendees, other than the panelists who are presenting the case, are muted. And then just in the next slide, I'll show you how to either submit your question or virtually raise your hand so that you can be recognized to ask questions. Ask your question when we get to that point. Okay, so here's the part where I was talking about the raising your hand section. It should be on the right-hand side of your screen. If not, then there's a series of buttons at the bottom that'll pop if you kind of scroll across the bottom of your screen, they can pop up. And if you click on participants, it'll come up with this list. You probably won't see anyone but yourself, but like I said, we've got about 8 people on the call so far. I expect that to probably come up a little bit because it's just now 6 after. So at the bottom of that, you'll see the Q&A portion where you can see, my friend Nick couldn't unmute himself, so he made the comment. So that's their part. Or as you look at your name in the list, you can click a little hand beside your name, and that will trigger us to see that you have a question. Okay. So, of course, I've gone over the purpose of this meeting. I'm going to talk a little bit about the community planning, like the process and the background information that you need to know about how we get to this point. Policy and zoning, what are the differences? I'm going to explain the requested land use policy and why we do need to make that change. And then the applicant will have an opportunity to explain what they want, what they are proposing with the rezoning, which is an SP rezoning. And then we'll take questions and have a discussion. Okay. So why are we meeting? We're here to I'm going to describe the proposed changes in the process of the plan amendment of amending the community plans. But we're here to gather your feedback, as Councilman O'Connell said, to hear what how you feel about this project, any of your concerns, things we need to consider moving forward as we create a staff report that will be our recommendations to the Planning Commission. Okay, so as I showed you before, here's the site at the corner of Buchanan and Fifth Avenue. And it's in the center of Salemtown. I think Councilman O'Connell did a great job explaining that. Here it is a little bit closer up. You see the two properties existing on the site. And this is the one that is contributing to the historical neighborhood, which will remain on the site, correct? Yes, I saw a yes from Jeff.
The historic house, yes.
Okay, so this is the historic property that will remain, and then the development will happen around it. And we'll show you that a little bit closer. Okay, but before we get to that, let me talk a little bit about how we make these community plan amendments, how we make the changes to the community plan. So first thing is how we do community planning in Nashville. Since the 80s, we've used these 14 community planning areas. You can see that North Nashville here has a star on it as a way to kind of divide our massive county into smaller sections to be able to have the conversations with the community about what they would like to see in certain areas. Nashville Next was the last time we did this massive update. It was completed in 2015 and updated in the community character manual, which I'll talk about in a little bit, was updated in 2017. But this is the Nashville Next is the long range plan that provides guidance for how we update the 14 community plans. Okay. And so in order to implement the vision that has been created through Nashville Next and the community plans, we have what is called the community character manual, which it describes the land use policy and addresses the form and character of development. Every property in Nashville has a land use policy referred to in the as a community character policy. And each policy is defined in the document, the community character manual. So you have Nashville Next that gives you the overarching view. You have a community character manual that gives the guidance for the different policies. And then you have your community plan that gets into even more detail, giving you more kind of the characteristics of the neighborhood or of the community and how it's plans to grow in the future. Okay, so these are the policies that are the standard by which the future rezonings are measured. So, but as part of the community character manual, we also we characterize these different policy types into the transect is what we call it. And so that, as you go from T1 open space, which is where you would have, the most open space, no buildings, to rural, where you would have your farming and like smaller buildings, to suburban, urban, down to downtown, which is where you have T5 and T6 are your most intense transects in the community. There we go. So why do we care? Why are all these important? Again, these are the policies. We look at these policies to guide the zone change requests that come in for the Planning Commission to review and for Metro Council to adopt. Zone change requests that are consistent with the existing policies have a higher likelihood of approval recommendation from the Planning Commission, because the community itself has already expressed that is the vision, that is the direction they want to go. In this case, the current zone change request is not consistent with the existing policy, so here we are to discuss whether or not it's worth making that change or not. And it's, of course, public engagement is required to consider these requests. So again, land use policy is that guidance and vision for an area. The policy change with the plan amendment, it does not change the current zoning. They're two separate processes. Although right now we're talking to them as one, because it's on the same piece of property or it's the same development. But land use policy is what we use to guide the rezonings. I realize that slide is incorrect. It's not IR to MUGA. But before I get to that, so this is the area in question. Its current policy is T4 neighborhood maintenance, which is the yellowish kind of around this way. And then you have other policies. The area is neighborhood evolving here. And then this is the T4 neighborhood center. is what, as again, what Councilman O'Connell referred to. You also see there's another tiny one down, or another smaller one off at another intersection. But so the purpose of those, the existing policy purpose is to maintain the general character of the existing urban residential neighborhoods. If you're familiar with Salemtown, you know that you have a regular street grid with like regulated lot sizes that kind of have set up a rhythm and pattern for the neighborhood. These areas will experience some change over time, especially when buildings are expanded or replaced, but efforts should be made, and that's one of the things we look at is efforts that are made to retain the existing character of the neighborhood. These urban neighborhood maintenance areas are served by high levels of connectivity. That's that street grid with the sidewalks and that pedestrian realm that is more inviting and more walkable than you would typically see in something that's maybe rural or suburban. Okay, now the requested policy is the neighborhood center policy, which is its intent is to maintain, enhance, and create urban neighborhood centers. These neighborhood centers are served generally within a 5-minute walk, which is one of the reasons you see another one that other one that was kind of off the map a little bit. They're pedestrian friendly areas that are located at intersections of urban streets. They came back to the pedestrian-friendly streets sections located at intersections, and then they contain commercial, mixed-use, residential, and some institutional land uses. The infrastructure and transportation networks can be enhanced to improve pedestrian, and bicycle, and vehicular connectivity. That could mean, whether you are adding a bike lane or adding more infrastructure within the sidewalk area within the street realm to kind of encourage that, like bike racks, different things like that. Okay, so all of that to say, these are some of the things that we think about when we are analyzing a request for a policy change. So we look at those guiding documents, the Nashville Next, the Major and Collector Street Plan, the community plan itself. We look at access to the street or to the area. So the street connections, whether they work, streets and alleys are very important in urban areas and make things work a little more efficiently. The trains and facilities that are available, the roadway capacity, whether it's adequate for what the planned policy change is for. Try to say that 3 times fast. And then community sentiment. How does the community feel about this? Do they understand the process? Do they know what they're going to get with all of these changes? And then lastly, location. So Nashville Next has a set of an organizing system called centers, where like a lot of intensity happen. And so we are looking at, when we look at development or growing the city, we look at how we can enhance those centers and put more density in those areas and then kind of expand as you go from that area. And then of course the fabric of the neighborhood, which I talked about with the placement of buildings on the site and so forth. Okay, and I did mention, that's really embarrassing. I did not finish that slide. I did mention that this is part of an historic neighborhood conservation overlay. And so as part of that, there's a process that where the rezoning request will have to go through a process with the Historic Zoning Commission. And I think I would not be the best person to speak about that, but I think that if the applicant wants to talk about that, I'm pretty sure both of them are familiar with that process if they need to.
That's for the March 17th, this month meeting.
March 17th is the Historic Zoning Commission meeting. Awesome. Okay. Okay. So there's my portion. Councilman Sledge, if you want, or gosh, Councilman O'Connell, I was in South Nashville last week. I'm so sorry. If you would like to speak now, please. And you can unmute yourself. There you go.
Sure. Thanks, Stephanie. And I know we'll hear the full applicant presentation coming up, but I think for me, as I consider this too, right, the community plan amendment actually will just stay at the planning council, but I pay attention to this because they tend to also be interested in council member input. For me, personally, I will say the reason that I could entertain a community plan amendment here is because these lots have for more than a decade been commercial neighborhood. And I think as we've watched Scouts and Grill Shack become really nice walkable amenities for the community, I've actually wondered why we haven't had seen more neighborhood focused businesses here for a long time. I mean, yes, plumbers in Nashville can serve the Salemtown area, but it's not really kind of a neighborhood business. And so I know that what Jeff is proposing would be another neighborhood accessible business. And I think, to me, at this intersection, since we already have commercial zoning available, I could be persuaded that this kind of feels like a neighborhood center at this one intersection. I don't think it would probably be very appropriate for a mid-block location or most other intersections in the neighborhood, but I think Jeff is taking advantage of some existing context. But I'm obviously eager to hear from neighbors. And that's the one thing I'll say in response to Stephanie's presentation.
Thank you, Councilmember. Sorry for calling you the wrong name. It's been a long month and it's only the 9th. So with that, I will turn it over to Michael Garrigan, who will be able to present. Let me stop sharing my screen. And then Michael, you can pull up your site plan.
Okay, thank you, Stephanie. There it goes. There we go. Can everybody see that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So my name is Michael Garrigan. I'm a civil engineer with Dale & Associates, and on the line and with me is Jeff Zeitlin. He is a developer looking to purchase this property and build it out as you see in front of you or on your screen right now. I'll just give a brief overview of the plan, and then I will let Jeff add what he would like to add, and then we can open this up to questions and answers because I'm sure there's going to be some questions. So if you can see where my hand is, where my cursor is, this is the existing house, the historic home that will remain on the site, and it'll be served by its existing driveway right next to it. From there at the corner, there will be a 1,900 square foot commercial building, frame in the corner built up to the sidewalk so that it is pedestrian friendly, followed by 3 live-work townhomes. So there'll be townhomes with allowable square footage up to 500 square feet on their lower level for an architect's office or an artist or something along those lines. There are some pretty strict guidelines as to the home occupation that will be allowed there, and hours of operation. We can get into that if that raises any questions. So with that said, those 3 will be fronting onto Buchanan Street. New sidewalks with grass strips. I know there's sidewalks that exist there, but they do not meet the grass strip requirements. So we'll have to reconstruct those along our frontage. This feeds into the alleyway, the existing alleyway that will be widened across the backside of our property that will supply 3 parking spaces here and access for the garage parking for the townhome units. All paved surfaces will be, except for the existing driveway, but all the newly paved surfaces coming off the alley will be done with permeable pavement, and we'll have a small rain garden or bioretention area in this location to further facilitate our stormwater management plan, as will be governs for both water quality and quantity. So that's the brief overview of the plan. Jeff, if you want to add anything, introduce yourself, and then from there we can just field questions. Thank you all.
Hi, everyone. I appreciate everybody's input so far. The one issue, the 1,800 square foot space, it is our vision that would be a neighborhood market. And then if you look at the U in the back, there's 200 square feet of basically covered outdoor space that there could be tables and things like that. We had originally planned for 4 live-work units, but Public Works has requested that we not access the new homes or the retail from the original plan was from the driveway that was on 5th. And when we had to put the parking on the alley side, that deleted one of the units. The existing house can be used for generally two purposes. One would be just to, as an existing historic house, and either or sell it or have somebody, that'd be a leased unit. The other is it's part of the live work SP document. So if somebody wanted to, that in the retail space wanted to use that as a prep area or a storage area, they could do that. It could not have commercial use in that people couldn't come in and purchase, but it could be as an accessory to work for, I think it's two people in that building. The other really exciting thing is around the turn of the century in the corner, this was a restaurant, so we're bringing back a historic use of the property as well. With that, we'd love to hear any questions.
Okay, well, thank you, both of you. So I'm looking through my list. Like I said, if you see your name in the attendee list and you want to ask a question or you want to type up a question, please do so. I'm looking at my Q&A box. I don't see anything yet. Oh, here, first question, Miss Candy and Chris Murphy. I'm going to unmute you. Go ahead.
Jeff, this is Candy. Can you hear me?
Yes, how are you?
I'm well, sweetheart. How are you? Good to see you.
Doing good.
So the original plan, good. The original plan said 4 living units, which is what we've been told. And you say that has changed? Because we asked this morning through our agent if that had changed, and we had no idea.
Yes, I did tell your agent. Obviously it would be preference to do 4, but Public Works has been pretty adamant that they will not allow us to use the driveway on Fifth Avenue, and that by doing that, where the original plan was to have the parking behind the existing home, and then where the parking is now to have an additional unit. But that has been recently, when we got the feedback, we requested Public Works to reconsider, and as of sometime this week, they said that that's
Not doable.
not doable.
Okay, so what does that mean for us? Does that change anything that we have agreed to with you?
No.
Okay. All right, just curious. I think you've done a beautiful job, by the way. We're very excited. I think it will definitely increase the value of this neighborhood. And again, I agree with Councilman O'Connell, it will bring amenities to the neighborhood, and I think it will definitely improve people's lifestyles. They won't have to travel as far.
Yeah. Also, one thing I forgot to say: this street, this block, kind of been my baby. I have built or building, besides this project, 16 houses on this block alone. I live at 5th and Taylor, so I mean, this will be my neighborhood community store as well.
Which is great. So you'll be investing in your own backyard. You'll keep a good eye on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you've done a great job. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'm trying to do too many things. Okay, thank you, Candy and Chris. You can click the hand button and you can that'll lower your hand. I don't see anything in the chat box. Are there any other questions? Oh, yes. Hi, Joe Sanfilippo. Sam? Okay. Get you unmuted here. Okay, go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Hi, Mr. Zylan, I haven't met you. I live across the street from Chris and Candy. Actually, it'll be right across from the live work units. I've got a couple of questions. Just The live work units. So will the bottom floors be built out not as residential? They'll just be open.
No, they will be built out as residential, and it'll be a flex room. So somebody, so let me give you an example. I live on Taylor, and because my house is zoned MUL, I'm legally allowed to have an office. With COVID, what has happened is people are using their house for office, but if you were to take it by the letter of the law and zoning, you really could not invite somebody in. So this is not retail. It's like if you want to have a home office and you want somebody to come in to have a meeting, you could have that. Or if you're a painter and instead of taking the downstairs bedroom and making it a bedroom, you decided that was your studio, you could invite somebody to come look at it. There's not, but I think it's really important to understand that it is not retail space, and the amount of people using that space who are not limited to that space will be specifically detailed in the SP.
Okay, and is that the main reason why the zoning has to change and it couldn't just be part of the SP? That was the one thing that I didn't understand, the zoning from T4 maintenance to urban center, unless that was part of it. This couldn't be done without that change, because it looked like it could just be a specific plan or something. So is that what's requiring this change in zoning?
No. So at one point, I think
Jeff,
these.
you want me to answer that?
Okay, go ahead.
Jeff, you want me to take that one?
Sure.
Mr. Sanfilippo, the current zoning is commercial neighborhood. So the current zoning does not permit the residential use. The land use is a residential land use, so it doesn't permit the commercial use. So in order to do the mixed use project so that the zoning, both the zoning and the land use allow it, they both have to be updated, because they currently contradict each other. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It's because all you can see is neighborhood commercial. When you look it up, it doesn't even say T4NM. So it's adding the residential, which I like the idea of having the residential there, because I knew it was always commercial. So it's kind of a nice mix to break up just having a commercial building. But I did see the live work, and I wasn't clear on what that meant, and if they would be sold as residential units or if they're going to be sold more as that, like more as a business. But it sounds to me like they're going to be sold as residential units, and somebody could they have a photography business, they could run that, I guess, out of the first floor of these units.
Yeah, yes, and they will definitely be residential units, not businesses.
Okay.
So technically, so I run my construction business, and sometimes I have somebody come in for billing. Before COVID, I had an office manager be there. I would have a meeting, around my dining room table. A meeting around a dining room table, and somebody, an assistant being at work, is not technically an approved usage of just residential use.
Okay.
There are a lot of people who do that, but it's not and so we feel, especially with COVID, people want that kind of residential space that they can also have some flexibility of use.
Okay. And just a couple of quick questions on the actual commercial part of it. The things that I guess the surrounding neighbors might wonder is like hours of operation and the amount of traffic coming through, and the way deliveries are and how those are handled, as well as where, like, if things are going to be cooked there, will there be like HVAC and ceiling on the roof? That how will that kind of, these are the devil's always in the details, so sorry to get into the weeds, but I'm just curious of that impact on, because it is commercial, so I understand that's already kind of there, but depending on what goes in there, some things can have a bigger impact on the community than others, and I'm just curious.
Well, I think correct me, Stephanie, if I'm wrong. I think business couldn't start before 7, and I would, I would think that 8, 9 o'clock, but I don't know if there's a zoning limit to that.
Yeah, I think some of that could be covered within the SP, as written in the SP. I mean, but that makes things a little more complicated. But typically, with the use that would be applied to that space, then there would be guidance on operations and loading and so forth. You could also add that in within like the organizing body of this particular development, if there is one. That could be something that could control that. But also to mention the fact that, you have the contributing house on the site, but you also have guidelines within that historical zoning that limit the what can be like the view sheds from different pieces and the materiality, the materials you can use. I don't know if there's anything about uses in that as well, but something else to consider, that there's another layer of that in addition to getting the policy to align with what the intent of the neighborhood center is supposed to be, and then getting the commercial zoning to the right place where you can have the residential to make that mixed use area.
Are the systems planned to be on the roof?
Yes, I would think so.
Most likely, and I would think that the standards, I'm not 100% familiar with them, but I would think that the standards for the historic district would dictate what could be seen from where.
Okay.
The other thing that I have found very interesting is that, unfortunately, we have lost a lot of neighborhood markets. And the ones we have really don't have any parking. One that would be kind of most comparable to this would be the produce store on Murphy Road.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Produce place.
Produce place. And they currently don't have any parking. But 3 parking spaces don't seem like a lot, but in this kind of neighborhood retail center, it provides a lot of opportunity to people to come in and out.
I mean, that's also the intent of the urban neighborhood center model, is that it's not meant to be a really heavy, super intense kind of center. It's more of a, a neighborhood store that you can walk to within 5 minutes of your neighborhood. So I think that it would be at this scale. Okay. Thanks, Joe. I've got one more question. Lindy Page.
Hi, how are ya?
Doing great. Thank you.
Thanks for having me on, or let me talk. I live next door at 1805, and these plans actually don't represent our house. Our house has 400 square feet out the back of it that we added on over the summertime. But my main question right now, or concern, is where the dumpster's located in regards to our back window of our bedroom and our deck. And just as far as this is a market and things like that, the food and all the things that be going to the dumpster that might bring on special friends like rodents that could, and the smell and things like that. So is there a way that this dumpster could be possibly put like in the alley or somewhere away from our living space?
Mike, do you want to address that change?
Yes, we've actually, it's not reflected here, but we have been asked by the planning staff already to relocate that to the alley access, down by the alley, all the way. Let's see if I can move, if you can see into this area right here.
Okay. And just one time got to live in Midtown, which was great, but that dumpster came at like 5 a.m. every morning or every Tuesday. Is there like a time frame this dumpster we picked up? And just, wondering about that.
So here's the good news.
I don't think
Because the type of dumpster we are using that is going to be a smaller. It's actually going to be on rollers. My understanding, and correct me if somebody has a different notice, but my understanding is because of that, the dumpster service is going to have to be private. So being private, we will have more control with the timing of that.
So that would be, so can we confirm it would be between like business hours and not before 7 or after 7 kind of thing? Is that an activity kind of thing?
Is that your understanding, Michael?
that's correct. It'll have to be private. It won't be picked up by Metro. So we'll have control over when the pickup time is, and that can be specified during business hours. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Will you make sure you make that note on the SP?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Let's see. I see the same 3 hands. If you have a follow-up question, leave your hand up. If you don't, click your hand so I can see who's left to.
I think David's got a.
Oh, okay, there's a new one. Thank you. Okay, David, let me see. Unmute. There we go. Okay, go ahead, David.
I don't know if you can hear me. I have the world's worst microphone. Do we know what the height is of the live-work structure?
Yes.
Jeff, could you repeat the question? I don't think I quite got that one.
He had asked for the height, and I believe
it's
no more than 35 feet. But let me pull that up. Do you have that, Michael?
Yes, I'm going to confirm that real quick.
It might be
This is what I'm panning through right now are the construction plans. It's 3 stories maximum and 35 feet. It's the height standard. That's it.
So 3 stories and 35. Okay.
And then the rest, the commercial space is smaller. Let me. Bear with me. Sorry, I didn't know that. Okay, here we go.
Hey, Jeff.
Yeah.
If you can send me what has been submitted to historic as far as the elevations, I can pop that up on the screen.
Okay. Yeah, There you go, Michael.
Oh, and while y'all are looking, there's also a question about will the townhomes have rooftop patios? So,
most likely, I do not see that happening. Just generally, historic frowns on that. But so to give you the specifics, what will happen is what we got the planning amendment, and then we will go to historic and the planning commission with the preliminary plan. Then we will Michael will do the construction drawings for the engineering, and then we'll do the architectural drawings, and those drawings, after the preliminary, will have to be approved again by historic. So the The market is 20 feet tall.
I think it's important to point out this shows 4 townhomes, but there's only 3. Is
So
everybody seeing the elevation?
yeah, so they've got, it's their,
I'll stop panning around and leave the screen up.
so this was the original plan for the 4, but you had to drop the 1, but the heights are still the same. Just to be clear.
Yeah, the original height was 38 and historic asked us to drop it to 35. They're also have asked us to lower the actual, and this does not reflect this, but they want to lower the roof pitch.
Okay.
But they do not need that for the preliminary site plan, but that will be part of the final historic approval.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Let's see. I'm looking for. Councilman, do you have a question
I saw Derek.
or a comment? Rather.
Do Derek first. I was just going to share my contact info.
Oh, okay. All right. Derek, you have a question?
Sure, yeah. So I just had one quick question related to, I know that a lot of times whenever those SPs go through, that periodically there are components like, sorry for the dog, she's trying to chime in right now. Take some of the larger residential stuff, or sometimes whenever they're putting in more commercial, they'll require that dog trash bag centers are put within a X radius block of this. Did y'all cover that? I joined about 30 minutes late. Is there anything associated with outside of this area, perhaps other trash bins? I know that typically whenever you have more commercial buildings come into a residential area, it's better to have more trash bins around that area. Is there anything associated with the larger scope of this limited section of the block to the greater neighborhood of Salemtown?
I'll take that. Nothing outside of the property boundaries, but there will likely be, a trash receptacle outside of the commercial building. Yes.
Okay.
I think you were
in the small vestibule there.
Derek. I think you were not here, but there will be dumpsters and they'll be private, so they'll be not be picked up at 4 in the morning.
Sure, yeah. Just to give you a point of reference, I absolutely love Grill Shack next door, right across. It's I catty corner, but just across the street from this proposed building. And I know that even there, I feel like they only have the one dumpster. Luckily, it's right there. But I live 3 doors down to the south or towards the city, and I've just noticed that I feel like the trash has increased pretty substantially just from having something that's a historic building that I don't believe it's historic. It's something that they did not have to go through the same hoops that y'all are jumping through. And I just wish that someone would ask about trash cans back when they were renovating that building with Scout's Barbershop and Grill Shack.
Yeah, so we will have dumpsters. Two small dumpsters and at the alley, one for trash and one for recycling. And again, because we've chosen to go where they're a private setting, they're not subject to waiting for only being dumped 1 day a week, or the service will be according to the trash.
Okay. So service as needed instead. Okay. Thank you. Let's see. Candy and Chris, do you have another question, or is your hand still up?
Oh, I think our hand is just still up. So sorry.
Okay, no problem. Thank you. And Joe, are you asking a follow-up?
Yeah, it's just more of a request if possible.
Okay.
Again, still on the dumpster. If it's possible to at least somehow screen it in some way from the street, since we'll be looking directly in from out our window, we'll be able to be looking right at the parking and the dumpster. Like Grill Shack, you can kind of see that's in no way screened from the people across the street. I don't know if it's possible, but I don't know if it's through landscaping or whatnot, but it would be wonderful from the street, us and the neighbors, to not have to look directly at it. Just a request.
Absolutely. There's actually a code, and there's a code in place that it has to be surrounded by 6-foot opaque fencing.
Okay. Thank you.
It'll be required to be detailed on our construction plans that it's screened. Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Let's see. Oh, and okay, council member.
Sorry, negotiating dinner here with the family. So I just wanted to say anybody can share their own comments with me at any time at freddie.o'connell@nashville.gov. That's FREDDIE.OCONNELL@nashville.gov. So I'm paying attention to this process. As Jeff mentioned, it's got to go through the Planning Commission once to get the community plan approved. It also goes to the Metro Historic Zoning Commission. It goes again to the Planning Commission for the rezoning, and then it comes to Metro Council if it makes it through all that for 3 readings at a bill there for the rezoning request. So there's a lot of public process here. If you have concerns, thoughts, feedback, feel free to share that with me at any time.
Okay. Well, thank you for that as well. I don't see any other questions. Let me double check. I think that's everybody. So I will adjourn the meeting. But if you, again, as Councilman O'Connell said, there are many times to check in. This is currently scheduled for the Planning Commission for March 25th, 4 p.m. If you have any questions, there's my email address, Stephanie, STEPHANIE.McCullough, MCCULLOUGH @nashville.gov. Or you can call and leave me a voicemail. Please leave me a voicemail. I work from home just like everybody else, and I have certain points of time where I can check things and not have a dog barking, for example. So I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And with that, thank you everyone for participating, and have a good evening.
Thank you, everybody.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information about this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.